You are listening to the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management topics to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. Hello and welcome to show number 14. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast for the 10th of December 2005, and today we have a feature interview with Robert Perrine, in which we will be talking about ITIL, the Information Technology Infrastructure Library. To start off the show, here are, as always, a few announcements and things I want to get off my chest. First of all, starting today, we will change to a 2-week release schedule until about the middle or end of January. This means that there will be no show next week, then there will be a show, then there will be no show, then there will be a show again. Reason for that? It's quite simple. Next week, next Saturday, I have a birthday coming up, so I wouldn't have done a show then anyway. But the reason why I'm continuing to do this until the end of January is simple. I am buying a new house. And that's quite a project. It's taken up a lot of my free time. So I really have to focus on that. And I'm going to change to this 2-week release schedule. But remember, it's only until the end of January, and then we're going back to the 1 weeks. And now, a word from our sponsor. Project Load is the web-based project management tool for your team. As project manager, you create the tasks and assign activities. As your team progresses, their timesheets automatically feed into project reports. With task forecasting, document storage, integrated notes, and over 25 alerts, Project Load is the one tool for project monitoring. Visit us at projectload.com. Now let's move on to the listener survey. Well, I've been making this announcement several times. The listener survey is up on the blog, and if you would please give me your feedback, that would help me a lot. And today I want to tell you what I have learned from this listener survey. There are 3 items that I would like to read to you, from which I have learned and from which I will be improving this show. Of course, I don't know who wrote them because this survey is completely anonymous, but here you go. The first one I really like. This is the best one that I've had on the survey so far, and it reads, Please do not read out emails saying how fantastic this podcast is. It just wastes time. Your last podcast went on for 5 minutes just reading out how wonderful it was. Okay, it's good, but please move on. We are listening for the content. If you just read out news, etc., we can get that from the same sources that you do. It's not very useful. Having said that, generally the rest of your podcast, after the first 5 or 10 minutes of backslapping emails, is great. All right, I agree with you halfway. I agree. Reading the backslapping emails, that's not really all too great, but unfortunately I don't get any others. So if you're out there and you want to write me an email that tells me how great the podcast is, please also include some real advice or maybe something from your experience as a project manager that I can include in the podcast. So please keep your feedback coming, send me your emails, but tell the other listeners about your life, and I can stop reading all these backslapping emails. But on the other hand, I disagree with not reading news, because other feedback on the survey told me quite clearly that news is liked. People are listening to the news that I read here. So I will continue to do this, but I will try and stop to read the backslapping emails. The second feedback from the listener survey was as follows. Great show. Best podcast I listened to. Okay, some backslapping here once again. I have only one remark. Could you please reduce the volume of the sound of the typewriter between your news items? It really gives me a headache. Apart from that, the sound quality is superb. I've been wondering about that myself because I personally thought that it was a bit loud, but nobody complained, so I kept it at that. Starting today, the sound of the typewriter is going down. And the third and last feedback from the listener survey is quite short. All it reads is, "Where were you 20 years ago?" Well, simple. 20 years ago, I was a 22-year-old software developer, and I couldn't have helped you in project management at all. It took me 20 years to come this far. All right, so much for the listener survey here. And now let us move on to the helpful resources. I have 5 helpful resources for you today. The first is, of course, connected to the interview that you will hear shortly, and it is the handout from Robert Perrine about his ITIL presentation, which he gave this month for the Project Management Institute Orange County chapter. And you can download that from his website. The link is, of course, on the blog at pmpodcast.blogspot.com. You can find the other 4 helpful resources at exactly the same location. And the second resource I have for you is an article / white paper that I found on ganthead.com. It is entitled The Estimation Blues, and it is quite a nice overview of the troubles that we as project managers run into when we have to estimate, and they give you a quite lovely solution there as well. Next, we have 10 things to ponder when implementing an integrated portfolio management application. This is a paper which was written by David L. Davis, a white paper really. It is a very quick read that you can probably spend 5 minutes on and you get the gist of it all. And it is an absolutely wonderful start if you are actually thinking about implementing an integrated portfolio management application. So this is a really, really nice place to start with this. The next one here is for all you project management beginners out there, and it is called How to Teach Yourself About Project Management Without Spending Any Money on Training and Consultants. This comes to us from the website of Michael Greer, and printed out, it's about 3 pages long, and it's a list of ideas, suggestions, and links where to go to and where to learn about the basics of project management. So this is a really great place to start if you are looking for something basic for a junior project manager, or if you're just starting in project management. So check this one out. And lastly, we're going even lower than just the beginning project management. We are going to project management for school kids. Now this one is really good for all you project managers out there who have kids in school and they have a school project coming up. Well, and then you suddenly realize that, you know what? Even though I've been talking at home about project management to my family for the last, 5-10 years, it looks to me like my kids really don't know what project management is and how to manage their own school projects. You know, set it up, plan it, have deadlines, have time assigned to it. This overview is written by Neville Turbit, and it gives all you project managers with children out there a great start on how to get your know-how to them so that they can apply this project management experience in their school projects. And that's about it for the helpful resources this week. Now, let's move on to one news item that I have found for you this week. Well, actually, there were more than just this one news item this week, but I felt that they were all so insignificant that I just let them fly by. This one here is from the 5th of December 2005, and it is titled Sao Paulo PMI Conference Brings Together PMI, UNESCO, and the Children of Brazil. Now, this is really not all too much to do with project management, and it is more about project managers going out into the community and doing something for the community at large. You may know that the PMI currently has a conference in Sao Paulo, or by this time it's actually over. And at the end of the Sao Paulo conference, which had a great attendance, by the way, they brought in Child Hope, which is also known as the Children and Hope National Campaign. It is a UNESCO program which is designed to, amongst other things, to contribute to the elimination of child labor. To me, this particular piece of news is just some way that we as project managers, even locally, can do something for the community at large. So if you're a member of a professional organization in your area, think about doing something like this, like the Sao Paulo chapter has done, and do something good for the community. Don't always think about project management. Think about the community at large as well. Yep, and that's of course the news for this week. Well, there wasn't really all that much, but nevertheless, if you want to read up on this particular news item in detail, simply go to pmpodcast.blogspot.com and you will find a link to this particular news item. Next in the show today is a new show segment called the Project Management Podcast Tip of the Week. If you remember last week, I said that I have my survey up on the blog, and if you want to take the listener survey, please go to the blog and click on the link. And in the survey, one of the feedbacks was that you wanted more tips, easy to use tips. If you listen all the way to the end of each of my podcasts, there's always a little golden nugget of wisdom, a tip if you wish, but obviously you want more quick and easy to implement tips. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a tip every week. And to make it a little bit more interesting, I'm also going to find some pod-safe music here and always have a little bit of a background music for you. Today's music comes from music.podshow.com, where I can download music that is safe to play on my podcast here. And the song itself is from an artist called Derek K. Miller. He is out of British Columbia in Canada, and the song is called Pocketbook. So here is the Project Management Podcast's Tip of the Week with Derek K. Miller's Pocketbook. The Project Management Podcast's Tip of the Week comes to you this week courtesy of my own personal frustration. And the tip is, be proactive. Be a proactive project manager, because I wasn't for once. Coincidentally, Tom Mokal from 10step.com, he wrote an article over the last 2 weeks in which he said there are 3 types of project managers: accidental ones, good ones, and proactive ones. Now, I have always been a proactive project manager. I like to tackle issues early on. Grab the bull by his horns, discuss small issues even before they arise and have the potential to explode into your face. However, 2 weeks ago, I saw an email conversation between 2 team members on one of the PMIOC projects that I'm working on. At that time, and still today, I have a lot of work at the office. I'm planning for the 2006 PMI board membership for myself, and I'm also buying the house, right? So I decided to let this one slip because I just didn't have any more bandwidth to address it. what I should have done is I should have invited those 2 team members to lunch to discuss this issue with them and clear the air so that everybody was on the same page. Well, in the meantime, the whole thing of course exploded and we have a misunderstanding and hurt feelings, and I now have a lot more work on my hand trying to resolve this exploded situation. Well, my tip for you, therefore, is to be a proactive project manager. Trust your instincts. Address issues proactively and resolve them early on. Not just those issues that you think they might explode. You know, you have this gut feeling there are small ones that you think they could grow bigger. Go after them. Because if you are a proactive project manager, in that way you do not have to feel the frustration that I am currently feeling for not having been proactive and addressed an issue that could have been resolved a lot easier a little while back. And that was the first project management podcast tip of the week. And now let's move on to the main section of the show, the Project Management Podcast's feature interview.
The Project Management Podcast feature interview. Today with Robert Perrine on ITIL, the IT Infrastructure Library.
We are coming to you today from the UCI, the University of California, Irvine, and with me is Robert Perrine, who was the speaker this morning at the PMI OC's, that's the PMI Orange County's monthly Advanced Topics Seminar, and his topic today was ITIL. Hello and welcome to the Project Management Podcast, Robert.
Thank you for inviting me.
Robert, you've been in the IT business for about 30 years. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Sure. I started out in the construction side of things and just sort of stumbled into project management along the way. My area of specialization now is processes, procedures. And so I spend part of my time doing projects and I spend a lot of my time doing operations side with the ITIL.
All right. And how did you actually get into ITIL? Because when we got to know each other, both of us, we weren't PMPs at the time. Correct. We went through the PMP preparation workshop. We sat next to each other in the class. Right. And how did you go from PMP towards ITIL?
It's a combination that my career, I do projects, but I'm within operations.
Right.
And then I'm in operations doing operations work, and then I'm back on projects. And so I keep oscillating back and forth on the two sides of it.
Yeah. What's the title of your position?
My position right now is Senior Project Manager.
Okay.
And so it sure seemed like it would be projects.
Yes.
But my organization is the Service Management Organization, which is the title I picked based on ITIL.
Okay.
And so our job in our organization is to blend, somehow improve operations by using ITIL while using projects to help us achieve changes.
Okay. All right, I see. Were you involved in ITIL before you got the current position?
Correct, yes. I'd first bumped into ITIL back about 97 and was more of an observer than anything at that point.
Right.
I then went through an implementation of ITIL with a company I worked at previously. That was actually underway when we were doing the PMP studies.
Right.
And then beyond there, I did some consulting work for a short time. AmeriQuest specifically wanted me specifically to come in and do ITIL.
Okay, so that's how you got your current position.
Correct.
All right. Now, from what you've just told me, the answer to the following question is almost clear from the current conversation that we've had. Is ITIL just another project management methodology or not?
No.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's what we need to separate is the operation side of the world, which is repeatable, predictable, always the same,
right.
And that's what you want. IT operations should look like an assembly line in a factory.
Right.
You should be able to go over and say, I put in this request for services. I expect that 3 days from now, my services are going to pop out the other side of this little system. And it should be perfectly predictable. But projects, the whole definition
Well,
is
yeah,
temporary, unique, always different.
Has a start and a finish, and operations is ongoing. And if you need a change, you use project management to change it.
Correct.
Now, does ITIL and project management overlap at some point?
There's a little bit of overlap with things like change management. Both disciplines need change management.
Right.
In most organizations, or every organization I've seen, most organizations I've heard of, they're actually treated very, very separately. So there'll be a change advisory board for operations. You're not allowed to move the servers. You're not allowed to change the software without going to the change advisory board. And there's some sort of a change mechanism on projects. Maybe pretty formal, and a lot of times not very formal at all.
Right.
And there's no reason that can't be the same
I was just
body.
going to say, where is the logic behind having them separate? Would it make sense from your point of view to combine these?
To me, it would. ITIL actually says you should have things like procedures, policies, forms, templates. All those things should go through the change advisory board as well.
Right.
So
that would be an
documentation.
overlap where ITIL and project management could meet
share.
and should meet, obviously.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when I prepared for our interview today here, I read that ITIL has 10, what are they called? Disciplines.
Right.
Can you give us an overview of these disciplines?
Certainly. We start with incident management. Incident is respond as quick as possible,
Right.
restore normal operations. And the whole idea there is just whatever it takes, get things running again right now. The business is being impacted, fix it now.
Right.
But fix isn't quite the right word. Just make it go away is more the right word.
Yes, the fire truck, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So-
Go out and
Yeah,
kill the fire.
right. Problem is where you now fix the thing for real.
Right.
And so if you have an incident that keeps reoccurring, you want problem to get involved and find out why is this recurring, make sure it never happens again.
All right.
Okay. From there, configuration management is about the infrastructure. Like asset management, you just want to know what you own and where it's at.
Right.
But beyond that, it's the relationships. How do you tie all these things together? So if you want to go over and work on a network switch, you
Yes.
want to know which users are going to be affected. This is configuration management that tells you that. It defines the relationships between
Okay,
the different
okay.
components. Okay.
All right.
Change, we talked about, is the whole process for managing
Yep,
change.
yep.
So it's predictable, and you have to do change. Everyone has to.
Just like on every project, like we already talked about.
Exactly.
Yes.
But you want to do it in an efficient manner that doesn't
Right.
disrupt the company.
Okay. All right.
Release management is about bundling changes together.
Yes.
And ITIL's quite happy if you bundle together software and call that a release. Well,
Mm-hmm,
that's pretty common in the industry. We have a new release of this coming out. We have a new release of an operating system or whatever coming out. But ITIL says you can bundle together bundles of hardware upgrades, documentation changes. Those are a release.
Yeah. Now, so far, I haven't heard anything that sounds different than what many major companies would be doing in their IT environment, except they're probably not following IT procedures, right?
That's exactly. ITIL is just best practices
Yes.
from the industry.
Okay.
It's what everyone is probably doing, but they packaged it.
Right.
So now there's formal definitions for the different roles.
Okay.
What are the boundaries? Because it's easy for someone at your typical help desk to get a phone call, say, this is an incident, we need to go solve this. But gosh, I really want to know why that happened.
Right.
And as soon as incident says, I want to know why, they've crossed the line. They're no longer doing incident's job.
I see.
Now they're trying to do problem's job.
I see.
So by having the boundaries defined,
Okay.
so then when you put it into an organization, there's a lot of communication that needs to occur. People have what they think is what their job's supposed to be. And ITIL says, no, this is how you should structure this
Okay.
so that all of these merge together effectively.
Okay. All right. But back to the 10 disciplines. So we talked about incident management, problem management, change management, configuration management, release management.
Right. So that's all the service support
Right.
side.
Exactly.
Now we go service delivery side.
Yep.
Start with service level management.
Right.
The service level needs to communicate with the customer. The customer is like the project sponsor, the person that pays the bills.
Yes.
Okay. And the customer has expectations. Those need to be documented in service level agreements.
Right.
Service level manager makes sure that we're meeting the agreements, keeps the customer informed, notifies the rest of the IT organization if there's a problem with meeting these objectives.
Yes.
And can proactively launch an initiative within IT to go improve, called a service improvement program,
Right.
which you could call a project. But ITIL says
again,
this
it's
is
operations.
within.
Yes, of course. All right. So much for service level management. Then
Capacity, well, let's just go with capacity
right,
next.
capacity.
Is the volumes. In capacity is concerned with measuring
Yeah.
how's the system performing.
Disk space, throughput, I assume.
Correct, exactly. And on up to what's the user's perception of performance here is if the user is simply clicks on a little icon on their desktop and they expect something to happen, did it happen like they expected? And that's the whole service. IT gets in a very bad habit of saying, I checked the disk, there's plenty of space, we're not pegging the processors, there was enough memory on the machine, I don't know what the users are talking about. Well,
Okay.
from the user's point of view, it just took longer than it should have.
Right.
Something didn't have enough capacity somewhere.
All right. So does capacity planning then also, or capacity management also take care of the solution of the incident that you've just talked about?
Well, if we go the routing, incident will go to problem. Problem investigates. Problem may say capacity.
It's a capacity issue.
We need
okay.
more network bandwidth.
Right.
We need to put this on more servers. We need to divide the users up over different segments.
All right.
Okay. Then it goes through change to go implement it.
Right.
Availability is capacity's partner. Availability is also measuring things.
Yes.
Availability is focused on specific metrics such as response time. And availability is also thinking about things like is it up or is it down. But that's not the user's point of view.
Right.
From the user's point of view, if I can't do what I need to do in a timely manner, it might as well be down.
Okay.
So
So
availability-
the magic 24/7 number, that would be part of
That's
availability's
Correct. Yeah, that's part of their charter.
part of
They
the
need to-
charter. There you go.
They need to measure, report, and they're the ones who are feeding information to service level management to check for compliance on the SLAs.
Right. Okay.
And they proactively plan.
So I see it all fits right into each other. Each of
Correct.
these 10 disciplines connects to the other.
All dependent on each
10.
other.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we have? I can see three more. Continuity, yes.
And IT financial. Financial is starts with simple things like where did the money we budgeted actually go to? Which seems like a pretty common question in
Right.
IT organizations. Gosh, we spent a lot of money. Why doesn't it seem like anything's running any faster than it used to?
Okay.
Good question. Take it up the next level of costing. Now, let's figure out how that money we spent, what part of it went to what service that we're providing to the customer. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Oh, we spent
Yes.
80% of the budget just on licensing and maintenance, and you don't get any new benefit out of that.
Right.
That's just your baseline. Oh, this other 20%, well, it went to this special project. It was for another customer. It wasn't for you. Thank you for your contributions to our organization.
All right. So those were the 10 disciplines that we have.
Yeah,
You
continuity is the one we didn't touch, but that's
We didn't?
I skipped over continuity.
So let's talk about continuity then.
Continuity is just it's a supporting tool for disaster recovery and business continuity.
I
And
see where that
separated
fits
out-
in. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
IT service continuity is only concerned about IT stuff.
Well, yeah, but in 99% of the cases, if IT continuity
good.
is there, you also have business continuity. Because business nowadays is almost
IT-centric.
fully IT-centric.
Right.
Yes.
It's the little things that get left out, like is there space to actually put the user someplace? You know, if you have an earthquake.
Yes, that is no longer IT. Granted.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was the distinction they needed to
Yes.
make. Was there'd been confusion that IT is responsible for the whole thing, and IT saying no. We'll make sure there's servers.
Right.
Somebody better make sure there's a place for the users to sit.
Because I know in my company, for instance, the business continuity manager
Right.
is both responsible for the continuity of IT
Yes.
and making sure that there are desks and chairs and computers and
clips.
everything available.
Exactly.
Right. Now, service desk. Where does the service desk fit into this?
Service desk is not actually a discipline. It's not a process. ITIL calls it a function. Think of it as a functional organization.
Mm-hmm.
It's simply saying there's a body of people that belong to the service desk, and they generally do the incident management thing.
Mm-hmm.
But important is that service desk is the group that talks to the users of the
Right.
services, where service level management talks to the customer.
Okay. Now we've seen an overview of these 10 disciplines. How would you say ITIL helps a company, match the delivery that they have to the needs of the business?
It's the feedback. That by having the customer communicating with the service level manager, by having the users communicating with the service desk, you have built-in communication inputs into IT. Because IT has had a tendency to close their ears to the customers and the users,
Right.
not listen to their feedback. So there's two built-in feedback channels.
Really? I hadn't noticed that they do that. In my experience, they always listen to what the user wants. Is ITIL used in a particular industry?
ITIL is IT, obviously.
Yes,
but,
of course. But is it just
widely.
focused on banking, or is it?
No. It's widely. It started in Britain,
Right.
and is widely accepted throughout the United Kingdom. It is pretty widely accepted throughout the world. It's just really making inroads in the U.S.
Okay.
But it's across all industries.
All right. Now, you have the ITIL Service Manager certification,
Correct.
and you got that, I believe, following your PMP, right?
Correct.
What does the certification do for you? Why did you get it?
In the case of the particular job I have right now, it was a prerequisite.
Okay.
We want to implement ITIL, and so you need someone who has mastery over the whole subject area to come in and orchestrate or architect.
Are there any other ITIL certifications out there?
Yes. This first foundation is a fairly straightforward test, 40-question multiple choice, and the thing with it is if you've browsed through the material,
Right.
if you can get to any sort of training, you should be able to walk through that.
Okay.
It is very much common sense and standard industry practices.
Okay.
The practitioner is in the middle, and it's being rethought, reformulated. It didn't turn out to be a very effective certification. If you think in terms of PMI, this would be like being certified as a planning expert. You are not allowed to execute. You're not allowed to control. You don't close. You don't initiate.
All right. That
And
would
so,
be
limiting.
very limiting.
Yes. And so it turned out to not to be a very popular choice.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Now, who does these certifications?
The British government is somehow contracted with a company in the Netherlands
Okay.
who creates tests. They then sell those tests. In North America, Loyalist College in Canada is the authorized testing agency. So they purchase tests from the Netherlands that are in Dutch. They translate them into English in Canada. And then they allow people in the U.S. to take the test, but all under the authority of Loyalist College in Canada.
All right. Now, we keep coming back to the British government. Does the British government actually own ITIL? Is it their intellectual property?
They publish the books,
Okay.
and it is theirs in that respect.
Yeah.
Just like PMI publishes the PMBOK, you cannot quote from
Right,
the PMBOK
right.
without credit to PMI. ITIL, however, is also in the process of being adopted by ISO. And so
Okay.
then it will truly become
Right.
an international standard.
So does that mean today when a company wants to implement ITIL, they actually need to buy the books? Is there a
Well-
royalty fee that you need to pay to the British government or?
You need to have the knowledge,
Okay.
and there's very little collateral material. For example, PMP, you can get Rita Mulcahy,
Yes.
Kim Heldman, lots and lots of good authors. ITIL, there are very, very few authors. So the original source material is the only good
Okay.
reference.
So I assume the original source material gives you the processes of ITIL. Is that
It
right?
gives you the disciplines.
The disciplines,
And
right.
if you think of PMBOK, you can see inputs, tools and techniques,
and outputs. Yes.
ITIL has a lot of those.
Ah.
They're in various places.
Okay.
And you are welcome to associate the right ones with the right places.
Okay. Now, if I remember the PIMBOK correctly, yes, there were inputs, tools and techniques and outputs, but there weren't really any best practices, there weren't any templates associated with those. So you really have to go out and search for these first. Is it the
Correct.
same with ITIL? Do you have to come
Pretty
up
much.
yourself with all of this?
They give you a few skeletons. They give you a service level agreement in some detail. They give you a format for it,
Okay.
but not even enough sample wording to really make one yourself.
Oh, all right. So you really have to, well, almost build the wheel from scratch again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So is that the way a company should implement ITIL, or what's the best way
Yes.
to approach this?
My experience with ITIL is that it needs to grow in the company. That if you just come in and drop this thing on top of the company,
Okay.
you will stagnate the company. And so
So take baby steps.
that's my preference for doing
Okay.
it. Yes. Grow it internally. Everybody already has something in the way of a change management process. Some are better than others. Tailor that to be more like ITIL. Identify the fact that everybody has some sort of an inventory system. Well, find out what ITIL says that the configuration management should do, and then start moving your inventory
All right.
to match configuration.
So best way to do it, have a project, a multi-year project with a PMP, I guess, at the head,
That would be
who
ideal.
also has ITIL experience and ITIL certification,
Correct.
and slowly moves the company from whatever it is today to a fully ITIL using environment.
Correct.
Okay.
And what we're doing, we call it an initiative. In PMI terms, it would be a program.
Right. Oh, a program.
Program.
Of
with
course,
lots
yes,
of little
makes
projects.
sense. Yeah, the implementation itself, no, you're right. Yeah, program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we attack one discipline at a time.
Yes.
And make an incremental change there. And in the meantime, looking for what's the next one. Make an incremental change in the next.
Right.
And keep going from there.
Okay, understood. Now, how did ITIL impact your company? If I understood it correctly, you didn't have ITIL before you got there, right?
Correct. We had a lot of best practices. We had a lot of people who had looked at ITIL previously. For example, the change management system was based upon what some people interpreted ITIL to say they should do for change.
Right.
And we're reassessing and we're going to refine it.
Okay.
We had a framework to begin with. We look at incident management. It already exists in the company. It's just scattered about amongst a couple of different departments. And so it'll be one of the last ones we touch because it functions today. Problem management we didn't see. So we picked problem management as one of the first areas to drill into.
Okay. Okay. Why did you decide to focus on problem management itself?
We did an assessment. Just start fairly straightforward series of interviews.
Okay.
Two of us came into the company and just started interviewing people to assess what exists already. And we try to categorize it and say, oh, that sounds like that's incident. oh, this looks like it belongs in configuration.
Okay.
And try to get feedback, because the people we were talking to didn't know ITIL enough to tell us if we were making the right translations. So we start with an assessment. We came up with a set of quick wins.
Right.
Presented that to the VP in
Okay.
charge of this, and he said, that feels like what I'm paying you guys for. Go ahead and do that.
Okay, so go for the low-hanging fruit, go for the quick wins as always,
Right.
so that you get your foot in the door, that the company starts realizing, hey, this is actually doing us some good,
Correct.
and then you expand it.
Right.
What
Establish credibility.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of a management support did you have?
We have excellent management support.
Okay.
Our vice president believes that ITIL is a good framework.
Okay.
And the director I report to himself is studying ITIL, wants to get his manager's certification as well. So
Yeah, I
it's good support
imagine,
there.
like with any other program or project, without the appropriate management support,
Oh, it'll die.
you would die, right?
Correct.
Yeah. What about the grassroots support, bottom up? Did you have a lot of pushback when you implemented ITIL?
Is a combination of both. An awful lot of people were saying, if what you say is that we will get more procedures and procedures mean bureaucracy, then go away.
Yes, I work in a company just like that.
Yeah. But the other side was people saying, we have no procedures today. It is chaotic. I can never satisfy my users, my customers, because I don't even know what they want.
Okay.
If you can give me
Yeah.
a structure, I like that.
Ah.
Then what we started doing was we had to grow the organization. So I taught a series of training classes. And then I took the people that I trained and I got them to team up with me to teach the next series of training classes. And now we're in our third round, and we're going to continue to expand, is that the people who take the classes assist in teaching the classes until we've grown. So it's not, here I am sitting over here trying to speak ITIL,
Right.
but I'm surrounded by a team of people who are speaking ITIL, and we're going to grow that further and further outward.
You know, it kind of sounds like a PMO.
Yeah,
So
it is.
not only do you need to implement ITIL, and if you take this over to project management, you implement a project management methodology at a company.
Correct.
But then in order to keep it going, to adjust it to the changing environment, you need the PMO overseeing everything and making sure that it keeps going. And you need exactly the same type of organization managing ITIL as it's being used and as the company evolves around it.
Correct.
Okay.
That's a very good analogy, yes.
Now, how do your work days or the work days of the people at the company at now differ as they're using ITIL compared to before they were using ITIL?
Okay. It is our belief that the people are following processes more effectively now.
Right.
For example, with sand storage, this is large systems that provide storage to multiple other servers within the environment. So very high-end storage. We'd had a history of 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday, users coming to us. See, our users are other IT groups.
Yes.
We would have another IT group come to us at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and say, we need 2 terabytes of space. We need it by the end of the day today. I'm sorry, 5 o'clock is we thought was the end of the day today. Well, I guess your day is going to be a little longer. And what we have got to the point where now we have a defined process for requesting this. We have a template that needs to be filled out. We haven't convinced all those people yet they really have to fill out the template. But we're making inroads, and we're convincing their managers that we will give them better service
If they follow the process.
Yeah.
Okay. Isn't that strange? Have a process, follow the process, deliver better service. Sounds like pretty much common sense, doesn't it? Right. Okay. Just to be clear, I mean, from everything that we've talked about, it's pretty much understood right here. ITIL stands for IT Infrastructure Library, right?
Correct.
So that means a project manager who's not involved in IT, construction managers, etc., will most likely never get in touch with ITIL, right?
Probably. Very much
Probably.
so. Yeah.
Okay.
It is a nice organizational structure, and the same organizational structure could be applied to banking or construction or others. But all the illustrations, all the wording and all is very computer-centric.
Yeah. I don't think we've mentioned it so far. How old is ITIL? When did ITIL start?
It was formulated in the 1980s.
Okay.
But it was simply an accumulation of materials that already were around. So in the 1980s...
And it keeps evolving, I assume.
Correct.
Yes.
There were 35 books. That's why I call it library. There were 35 books in the library back in the 1980s. They have brought it down to where now there are 7 books, 2 of which are really the core of the whole structure.
How many pages are we talking about here per book?
Oh,
roughly.
Very, very similar to a PMBOK. Probably like 300, I'd say, for service support, 300 for service delivery. Where PMBOK was either 200 or now it's 400.
400, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking each of these 7 books somewhere around 200 pages.
Correct.
That's quite a bit of material to read
Yes.
and know about.
Yes.
Wow.
That's the whole framework.
Yes, of course. All right. Now, ITIL versus CMM levels 1 to 5. Where do they fit in with each other?
I'm not an expert at all in CMM or CMMI, and so I'm just going to say basically is my understanding historically is these are much more focused upon software development, and so they would complement if you have consistency in how you go about gathering requirements, building your software, testing, evaluating. If you have consistency there, you will feed into operations more consistently.
Okay.
I think that there's a little overlap, but no, it's not an exchange between the two.
All right. So they are mutually exclusive, would you say, or
I'd say largely. So.
Largely. Okay.
80 to 90%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Now, you also mentioned that there is a specific relationship between portfolio, projects, customer satisfaction, and operations.
That's correct. That's
How,
my model.
can you define that for us?
Absolutely. The model I work with is that we have vision. Our executives, maybe somewhere in the corporation, maybe just within our division, come up with a concept of something they want to achieve. We bring that into our portfolio and we look at that and we say, that sounds like a project. Or, oh, that sounds like we're just tweaking operations, so let's use some tools from ITIL.
Okay, triage.
Yes.
Right there. Okay.
Yes. When we look at it and we say that's a project, then we want to take it off, hand it off to a project manager,
Right.
package it, run it like a project. And the goal is that operations is at a steady state,
Yes.
consistency.
Yes, of course,
We
of course.
change that steady state and it returns to a steady but a different state.
New
than it
state,
was before.
yes.
Correct. So that's where we have portfolio to assess how to go about it, projects when it warrants a project, operations is where we try to live, and then below all of that is the customer satisfaction. We need to be measuring what we're doing, and we need to get feedback, we need to measure our own resources, etc., and determine that we're actually achieving what we thought we were going to.
Right. Now, in project management, you have the magic triangle between cost, schedule, quality, right? Would you...
Scope and time now.
Well, yeah, costs go. They change every few years. How are we supposed to keep up?
Exactly.
Now, would you call the portfolio projects, customer satisfaction, and operations in ITIL maybe the magic quadrant, or?
Well, it's the model I'm working with.
Okay.
And I haven't seen anyone else quite put it into that arrangement. So it's the model that is working really well for me right now.
All right. So this is not an official model. This is your own.
ITIL recognizes that you should have layers.
Right.
They like a pyramid as their illustration, but they don't separate the projects from the operations. They just don't talk about projects.
Okay. That's pretty bad.
Well, it's their focus is operations, and then
That's
they say,
true.
If you want to do a project, go get a project management discipline.
Absolutely. All right, Robert. Thank you very much for this interview on ITIL. And as always, let us finish the interview here with the final 10, my standard 10 questions that I have for you here. So number 1, what was your favorite project?
My favorite project was a project recently completed at a prior employer, and the company was heading into bankruptcy. We had a potential customer that just wanted a different set of features, and so we had a very short time frame, very urgent need.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah. And we were able to pull it together with offshore development in India, one of the developers working in Ireland, a small development team here in Irvine, California, and very vague customer requirements. And implementation was in a language none of us had programmed in before. And we pulled it off. We did it in a very short amount of time.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that one. Question number 2. What project would you have liked to have managed?
Vacation.
Okay, I see where you're going with that.
Yes.
Number 3. What is your favorite project management book?
And there, my answer on that is I go back to the Bible. It's
Really?
Everything you ever want to know about people, and people
Right.
are what you build projects out of. It's there, and you can see the way they treat their project managers throughout history.
Yes, it makes a hell of a lot of sense now. Number 4, what is the topic of the next training that you are planning to attend? I know you gave a training this morning on ITIL, so what's the next thing that you are going to learn?
I'm getting ready for the next set of the PMP workshops.
Okay, so
I helped Mike Gruppner
you're
with
continuing to train, you're not taking seminars yourself.
Yeah.
All right. And number 5, what, in your words, is the best way to make a project fail?
Yeah, and there it's all about communication. It's, if you don't know what it was that was expected or required, if you're not communicating back what you've got, what you can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Communication.
Yeah.
Number 6, how do you like to celebrate a successful project with your team?
Yeah, and that's like this vacation thing. It's one of those-
I see a theme running through this.
Yeah, so many of my projects, I get dropped in somewhere after the project's already floundering. Here, fix this. And I work on it for a while, and about the time I can see the ship heading into port, they say, oh, no, you don't get to ride into port. We got this other one over here. And off I go do that.
The next project is right down the line, sir. Yeah. Number 7, I think I already know the answer to that one from you. In your projects, where do you focus most of your attention in order to be successful?
Most of my time is on the communication.
I knew it. Yes, I knew it.
Trying to figure out who said what to who and how did we get to where we are today.
Right. Okay. Number 8, if you weren't a project manager, what would you like to be?
I have tried several times to get out of this. I have moved off into some, and I keep coming back.
So you want to be a project manager?
I think
obviously.
I want to be a project
Okay.
manager. It fits really well.
Number 9, what is the one thing that a project manager cannot live without?
So many choices. Oh, I'm going to go with my quote. If I could, can I read my quote?
Sure.
This is one of those little things that has been it's been in my notes for longer than I've been doing with projects.
Right.
It's just a simple little quote of Rousseau. I don't even remember which book it was. But imperceptibly we fall into perilous situations which we can no longer extricate ourselves without heroic efforts which appall us. At last we fall into the abyss, reproaching God. Why hast thou made me so weak? But in spite of ourselves, he replies to our conscience, I have made you too weak to save yourself in the abyss because I made you strong enough not to fall into it. So I got 3 things. Is a project manager utterly dependent upon God. That's the only thing there is there. Second, we have to go do it ourselves. We can't sit back and wait for someone else. And third, we're always just about 2 millimeters away from the edge of a cliff.
Yes, it feels that way, doesn't it? Number 10, finally, the oldest question in project management. what is more important in a project manager? Project management expertise or industry expertise?
And my experience is that it is the project management expertise.
Why is that?
I've moved from between multiple different industries, so civil engineering, construction, distribution company, oil company,
Right.
And it's the communication. Are you do you know what you're trying to accomplish? Are you measuring that you are getting closer to accomplishing that? Does anybody know what's going on? So I think it translates really well between industries.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. I have thoroughly enjoyed this interview.
Good. I
All right.
enjoyed the experience.
Thank you very much for being here on the Project Management Podcast.
All right.
And that was the interview with Robert Perrine on ITIL. Well, I learned a lot about ITIL myself, and I hope you did too. After the interview, Robert and I continued to chat about the seminar which he had held that morning, and I had learned that he had about 35 people attending, and that it was really interesting. And like I had mentioned earlier in the helpful resources, we have a link to the presentation that he gave on that morning for you. So please go to pmpodcast.blogspot.com and download Robert's presentation. That's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. Again, until the end of January 2006, the Project Management Podcast will come to you once every 2 weeks, because I'm taking 1 week off for my birthday, and then I really need some time to pull that project of buying a house off. In the next show that you'll hear in 2 weeks, we'll be talking about 2 new project management podcasts that are there available for you. As always, you can find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. And when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this. To the optimist, the glass is half full. To the pessimist, the glass is half empty. To the project manager, the glass is twice the size it needs to be. With that, remember to fix the problems on your project instead of blaming people. After all, it usually takes a lot less energy and nerves to fix the problem than it takes to actually decide whose fault it was. Until next time.